They say every marriage ends twice. First in the heart, then on paper. I didn't realize my wife's heart had filed for divorce months before the lawyer showed up at my door. It was a Tuesday morning when Natalya looked me dead in the eye over her almond milk latte and said, "I think you should leave the house for a while." No tears, no raised voice, just calm, like she was suggesting we switch to oat milk instead. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask why. What was the point? When someone tells you to leave your own home, it's not an invitation to negotiate. It's a verdict. Okay, I said, as if she'd asked me to take out the trash. Then I grabbed my jacket, walked out the front door, and instead of spiraling like every rom-com protagonist in history, I did what any man with a functioning brain and a solid Wi-Fi connection would do. I called my bank. By 10 a.m., every cent in our joint accounts had found its way into an account with my name, and only my name, on it. By noon, I had canceled every shared subscription we had: Netflix, Spotify, Prime. If she wanted to binge Bridgerton while sipping wine with her friends, she could do it on her own dime. By evening, I drove back to the house, not to beg, not to fight, but to collect my keys. All of them. Front door, garage, safe deposit box. The works. She opened the door, looking surprised to see me, and asked, "Forgot something?" "Yeah," I said, holding up the keys like a trophy. "Ownership." Her lips twitched like she wanted to say something sharp, but she didn't. She just crossed her arms and watched me leave like a queen observing a peasant exiting the castle. Here's the thing about me. I'm not a saint, and I'm not a fool. I've worked too damn hard for too damn long to let someone kick me out of the life I built. The house. Mine, bought 2 years before the wedding with money my late grandfather left me. The car in the driveway. Mine. Even the dog technically belongs to me. The adoption papers are in my name. So when I left that day, I didn't pack a single bag. Let her play house with whoever she thought was better than me. Let her believe she had won. Because what she didn't know was this. The first person who'd knock on my door after her little eviction stunt wasn't going to be her boyfriend. It was going to be her lawyer. And that's when the real game would begin. 2 days later, the knock on my door sounded like opportunity dressed in Armani. I opened it to find a man in a charcoal suit holding a leather briefcase that probably had more skeletons in it than a pirate's chest. His face had that lawyer look, polite, but with eyes that could measure a man's net worth faster than his pulse. "Mr. Mendoza?" he asked, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "That's me," I replied, leaning on the doorframe like a man with nowhere urgent to be. "I represent Mrs. Natalya Mendoza," he began, pronouncing her name with a flourish, like he was announcing royalty. "We'd like to discuss the terms of your separation and her continued residence in the marital home." I bit back a laugh. Her continued residence? She asked me to leave, remember? I gestured for him to come in. Might as well let him sweat in my leather armchair. We sat in the living room, my living room, in my house, on my couch. I wanted him to remember that part. He opened a sleek folder, smoothed the papers like a magician about to pull a rabbit out of a hat, and said, "Mrs. Mendoza would like to exercise her right to exclusive use of the property during the divorce proceedings." Exclusive use, I repeated slowly, like tasting an unfamiliar dish. Interesting concept, but there's just one little hiccup. I got up, walked over to my desk, and pulled out a folder thicker than his. The property title, the mortgage documents, and the prenup. I laid them on the coffee table like a royal flush. "This house," I said, tapping the first page, "was purchased 2 years before I even met Natalya. Paid in full, courtesy of my grandfather. It's solely in my name. And according to this," I slid the prenup toward him. "She waived any claim to it if things went south. Which, judging by your presence, they have." His face didn't change, but his eyes flickered, a microsecond of panic. Lawyers hate surprises, and I'd just dropped a grenade in his lap. He tried to recover. "Well, in that case, we'll need to discuss alimony and equitable distribution of marital assets." "Oh, absolutely," I said, grinning like a man who's already 5 moves ahead. "But before we do, let's get one thing straight. Natalya's boyfriend Gabriel has exactly 24 hours to pick up whatever scraps he left here, or I call the cops and have him charged with trespassing." That one landed like a sucker punch. He blinked. "Excuse me." "Yeah, I said casually. Your client moved her boyfriend into my house while I was away on business. I've got security footage, timestamps, even a nice little recording of him screaming that he lives here now. So, you tell Natalya that if I see his smug face anywhere near this property again, I'll get a restraining order so fast his man bun will spin. The lawyer's pen hovered midair. I see. Oh, and one more thing, I added, standing up. I closed all the joint accounts. Every last penny. So, if she needs money for her nails, her wine, or that laughable excuse of a man she's dating, she's on her own. He gathered his papers slowly, like a man realizing the lion he thought was caged was still very much roaming free. At the door, he turned and said, "This isn't over, Mr. Mendoza." I smiled, the kind of smile that says, "You're right. It's just beginning." Because what Natalya didn't know was that I wasn't just playing defense. I had plans, and if she thought she was going to waltz out of this marriage with half my life, she was about to learn that sometimes the quiet ones bite the hardest. People think marriages implode in a single moment, a fight, an affair, a betrayal so loud it echoes through the walls. Truth is, it's never that dramatic at first. It's a drip, not a flood. Tiny cracks forming in silence until one day, you realize the whole damn house is sinking. With Natalya, the first crack was subtle. 2 years ago, she started going to these networking events. Sounds harmless, right? Except the events were always at rooftop bars, and she always came home smelling like champagne and some cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Then came the phone habits. Face down on the table, notifications off, and that quick swipe to close apps when I walked into the room. Classic signs, the kind of stuff you read about in 5 Stages of Getting Cheated On, which should be an actual book. But the real punch in the gut came 3 months ago. I'd been out of town on a work trip, the kind of trip that pays for the mortgage, the vacations, the yoga retreats she swore were soul work. I come home a day early, thinking I'd surprise her. And oh boy, was I the one in for a surprise. Her car was in the driveway. Lights on. Music playing. I walked in, calling her name, and found nothing. No Natalya. No shoes by the door. Just a wine glass on the counter and 2 plates in the sink. 2. I checked the bedroom. Sheets messed up. Not like we left them. And then I saw it. A men's watch on the nightstand. Not mine. I didn't say a word. Didn't flip the mattress. Didn't tear the place apart like a man in a soap opera. I just stood there staring at that watch, feeling a kind of calm fury I can't explain. The kind that settles in your bones like cold steel. When she got home later, yes, later, she breezed in with a smile like she'd just won a prize. "Oh, you're back early," she said, her voice all sugar. I looked her dead in the eye and asked, "Who was he?" Her face didn't flinch, not even a flicker of guilt. She just tilted her head and said, "You're being paranoid." And that was the moment I knew 2 things. She was cheating. She thought I was stupid. So, I did what any man with a brain and a decent Wi-Fi connection would do. I started preparing. Quietly. Carefully. I called my lawyer. Got a financial freeze plan in place. Made sure every asset with my name stayed that way. She wanted a chess game? Fine. But she forgot one thing. I've always been better at strategy than she is at secrets. So when she finally had the nerve to tell me to leave the house, I didn't argue. Because the truth is, I'd already left, emotionally, mentally, and legally. All that was left was to watch her step into the trap she built for herself. And trust me, the next move was mine. 3 days later, just as I was pouring my second cup of coffee and enjoying the peace of my very much mine living room, the doorbell rang again. I didn't need to guess who it was. The same lawyer stood there. Only this time he had backup, a younger associate with the kind of haircut that screams still pays student loans. They came in, briefcases snapping open like they were about to perform surgery on my finances. "Mr. Mendoza," the older one said, tone clipped and formal now, none of that fake warmth from before. "We've reviewed the documentation you provided. The house is yours. That's clear." Translation, they hate that part. "But," he continued, "our client is entitled to spousal support, considering the duration of the marriage and her current financial dependency on you." I leaned back in my chair, hands behind my head. "Financial dependency," I repeated slowly, tasting the words. "You mean, the spa days, the luxury shopping, The boyfriend she moved in while I was paying for the roof over her head? That kind of dependency? The younger one flinched. The older one cleared his throat. Regardless of personal choices, the law is clear. Funny thing about the law. I cut in, sliding a folder across the table. It loves paperwork. And guess what I have? Every bank statement from the last 4 years showing her personal expenses. Tens of thousands in designer nonsense charged to our joint account. Do you know what judges call that? Dissipation of marital assets. The younger lawyer blinked. The older one frowned, but I wasn't done. Also, I added, pulling out my phone and pressing play, you might enjoy this. The living room filled with Gabriel's voice, recorded during his meltdown at my door. She's my partner now? We're together. You can't kick us out. I hit pause. That little performance happened before the divorce was even filed. So now we've got adultery, cohabitation, and financial misconduct on record. The lawyer closed his folder slowly, like a man watching his strategy catch fire. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Mendoza? I smiled, the kind of smile wolves probably give sheep right before dinner. Simple, I said. You tell Natalya, she walks away clean. No spousal support, no claim on my assets, no alimony. She packs her designer luggage and rides off into the sunset with Gabriel the Great. Or, I let the pause hang like a noose. We go to court, and I subpoena every bank record, every security cam clip, every text she ever sent her boy toy. And when we're done, she won't just lose this case. She'll lose the sympathy of every friend who thought she was the victim. The room went quiet. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall like a countdown to detonation. Finally, the older lawyer sighed. I'll convey your terms to my client. Please do, I said, standing and walking them to the door. And tell Gabriel I said hi. When the door closed behind them, I poured myself another cup of coffee, hotter this time, because nothing tastes better than control. But I wasn't naive. I knew Natalya wouldn't just roll over. She had pride, ego, and a man-bun warrior whispering in her ear. The war wasn't over. It was just getting interesting. And my next move? Oh, it was going to be personal. It happened on a Saturday morning, the kind of morning where the sun looks like it's apologizing for the chaos of your week. I was on my porch, sipping black coffee and scrolling through contractor bids for a new project when I heard the sound of an engine revving like a teenager's ego. Then came the car, a cherry red Dodge Charger that screamed, I have terrible credit but great confidence. Gabriel. He parked so close to my driveway, I half expected him to set up a tent. Then he got out, all 6 feet 2 inches of gym memberships and bad decisions, wearing sunglasses that belonged in a music video, and a smirk that made me want to offer him a map back to reality. He strutted up the steps like he was about to deliver a TED Talk on masculinity. Mendoza, he said, taking off his shades for dramatic effect. We need to talk. Correction, I said without standing up. You need to talk. I need to finish my coffee. So make it quick before the caffeine wears off and I stop being polite. His jaw tightened. You humiliated Natalya. You locked her out of her accounts. Kicked me out like trash. Like trash. I raised an eyebrow. Don't be so hard on yourself. You made it through the door for a whole month. That's more than most strays. That one hit him like a jab. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to what I assume he thought was menacing. You think you've won, huh? You think you can just win? I laughed. Buddy, this isn't a competition. You already got the consolation prize, Natalya and her maxed-out credit cards. Congrats. Hope you like kale smoothies and debt collectors. He clenched his fists. For a split second, I saw that flicker in his eyes. The should I swing? Look. And oh, I wanted him to. Badly. Because 2 things were on my side. Security cameras. A lawsuit just itching to be filed. But then I decided to play a different card. The one that would sting worse than a punch. Gabriel, I said, standing up slow, like a man who owns every inch of ground he walks on. Tell me something. Did Natalya mention the prenup? The one that says if she cheats, she gets nothing? Or how about the little clause in state law that lets me sue you for alienation of affection? That's a civil lawsuit, champ. You know what that means. You're not just screwing my wife. You're screwing your credit score for the next decade. The color drained from his face so fast I almost offered him a chair. I leaned in, voice low enough to make him sweat. Now, you can keep puffing your chest, or you can get back in that rental car and go figure out how to pay for Natalya's wine habit. Your call. He blinked. Then, like a balloon deflating, he backed down, put his shades back on, tried to salvage a shred of dignity with, "This isn't over." I smiled. "Oh, it is. You just haven't realized it yet." He stomped off like a kid who'd lost his lunch money, tires screeching as he peeled out of my driveway. I sat back down, finished my coffee, and made a mental note. Never underestimate how much fun it is to destroy a man's day without even raising your voice. But if Gabriel thought that was the end, he was wrong, because the real storm was still brewing, and this time, Natalya was about to walk straight into it. It started with a text at 11:47 p.m. "Natalya, can we talk? Please." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. I almost typed, "Sure," called Gabriel. But curiosity is a dangerous drug, and I wanted to see how far this rabbit hole went. So I replied, "Me about what? The weather?" Seconds later, the phone rang. Her name lit up the screen like a bad omen. I answered, "Natalya." She didn't waste time with small talk. Her voice was shaky, drenched in that "I'm the victim here" tone I used to fall for. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she said. "I'm living at my sister's. I have nothing. You took everything from me." "Correction," I said, keeping my voice calm, almost bored. "I took back what was mine. Big difference." "You're punishing me," she snapped, the tears breaking through. "After everything we've been through, you could at least make this easy. I need money, okay? Just until the divorce is finalized. You know I'm not working right now." "Oh, I know," I said, letting the silence stretch. "You quit your job to become, what was it? A lifestyle consultant? And then you spent 10 grand on Chanel bags to market your brand. How's that working out?" "That's not fair," she cried. "You know I did that for us. For our image." I laughed. Loud, sharp, enough to make her stop mid-sentence. "For us? You mean for you and Gabriel, right? By the way, tell him thanks for the performance last week. My lawyer loved the recording." Her breathing hitched. "You're recording me?" "Only when it's entertaining," I said. "Relax, this isn't being recorded yet." There was a pause. Then came the classic move, the sob story. "I made a mistake, okay? One mistake. Can't we just work something out without lawyers? Please. I don't want this to get ugly." Ugly. That word almost made me laugh again. She had no idea what ugly looked like. So I dropped the hammer. "Here's the deal, Natalya. You sign the agreement my lawyer sends you tomorrow. No alimony, no claims to the house, no share of the savings. You keep your clothes, your car, and whatever dignity you can salvage. In return, I don't drag your name, and Gabriel's, through court so hard your own mother blocks you on Facebook. Deal?" Silence. I could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. Finally, a whisper, "You can't do that." "Oh, I can. And I will. Because unlike you, I planned ahead. Prenup, financial records, security footage. I've got enough ammo to make a judge laugh you out of the courtroom." Another pause. Then, the quiet sobbing started again, soft and pitiful, like it might soften me. Once upon a time, it would have. Not tonight. "Tick-tock, Natalya," I said, my voice like steel. "You've got 24 hours. After that, the gloves come off." I hung up before she could answer. As I set the phone down, a strange calm washed over me. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Control. But here's the thing about storms, they always have an eye. And mine was coming fast. Because I knew her. She wasn't going to surrender quietly. And when she made her next move, I'd be ready. The email came at 8:13 a.m., right as I was pouring my first cup of coffee. Subject: Notice of emergency motion, exclusive use of marital home. I read it twice, sipping slowly like a man savoring the taste of irony. Natalya had gone full nuclear, an emergency court hearing to claim the house. Her angle? She feared for her safety and required stability during proceedings. Classic playbook move. Make the guy look like a monster and keep the castle. Cute. My lawyer, Ramirez, called 2 minutes later. "She's claiming you locked her out without due process," he said, voice dripping with annoyance. "And get this, she's alleging you're hiding assets." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. "Hiding assets? I've got spreadsheets that would make the IRS cry tears of joy." Ramirez chuckled. Then let's bury her with receipts. Bring me everything we prepped. By noon, I was in his office with a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. Property title, prenup, security footage timestamps, bank statements showing her little shopping sprees, and, oh yes, the piece de resistance, a signed witness statement from my neighbor, who saw Gabriel's Dodge Charger parked in my driveway more times than Amazon Prime. Fast forward to the courtroom the next morning. Natalya sat at the petitioner's table in a cream-colored dress that screamed innocent victim, dabbing her eyes with a tissue like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Gabriel wasn't there, probably busy Googling, "Can you get sued for sleeping with a married woman?" Her lawyer opened strong. "Your Honor, my client has been unfairly displaced from her marital home. She fears for her well-being and has no financial means, as Mr. Mendoza has unilaterally emptied their joint accounts." The judge, a stone-faced woman in her 60s, turned to us. "Mr. Mendoza, your response?" Ramirez stood, smooth as silk. "Your Honor." Opposing counsel left out a few details. He clicked the remote, and the big screen lit up with still frames from my security camera. Gabriel, shirtless, lugging a duffel bag into my house while I was out of town. Another shot of him trying to kick the front door after I changed the locks. And then, the audio clip. "She's my partner now. We're together. You can't kick us out." The judge raised an eyebrow so high it nearly left the courtroom. Ramirez continued, voice like velvet over steel. "Additionally, the property is solely in my client's name, purchased prior to marriage, and protected by a prenuptial agreement signed by Mrs. Mendoza. And regarding finances," he dropped the stack of bank statements on the table with a satisfying thud. "Every withdrawal is documented, along with evidence of marital funds being used for unauthorized personal expenditures." The judge leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Mrs. Mendoza, did you cohabitate with another man in the marital residence prior to these proceedings?" Natalya stammered, color draining from her face. I, Your Honor, that's not. It's a yes or no question," the judge snapped. A whisper, "Yes." The judge exhaled slowly, then delivered the verbal equivalent of a sledgehammer. "Motion denied. Exclusive use remains with Mr. Mendoza. Furthermore, given the circumstances, the court will entertain sanctions should this behavior continue. Next hearing set for 60 days. Natalya's lawyer looked like someone had yanked his parachute cord midair. Natalya just sat there, frozen, mascara running like a crime scene. When it was over, I walked past her table, leaned down just enough, and whispered, "Tick-tock." Then I left, feeling lighter than I had in months. But as I stepped outside, Ramirez clapped me on the back. "You realize," he said, "this isn't her last move. Women like that, they don't go quietly." I smiled. "Good. Neither do I. Because I wasn't done yet. In fact, I had a plan so sharp it could cut glass. And when I executed it, Natalya would wish she'd walked away when she had the chance." The morning after court, I woke up feeling like a man who'd just won the first round of a heavyweight fight. Natalya was down, but not out. And knowing her, she was probably pacing in her sister's kitchen right now, plotting her next move with a glass of overpriced wine in hand. Good. Let her plan. Because I had something better, a nuke disguised as a legal document. See, most people think divorce is about emotions. Crying, yelling, Taylor Swift playlists. Wrong. Divorce is a business negotiation with feelings sprinkled on top like cheap garnish. And the way you win is by making sure the other side realizes they can't afford the war. Enter the post-separation financial freeze and indemnity agreement. Fancy name for a brutal reality check. Ramirez and I drafted it overnight. Here's the gist. Natalya signs this. She walks away clean. No spousal support, no claim on my savings, no share of my future income. In exchange, I won't pursue legal action for alienation of affection. Yep, that's a real tort in our state, against Gabriel or her. And I won't request reimbursement for the $48,000 she burned through on business expenses while building her failed influencer empire. Basically, I dangled mercy in one hand and a legal flamethrower in the other. But that wasn't the best part. No, the best part was the clause we slipped in at the end. Any public statements made by Mrs. Mendoza regarding Mr. Mendoza's character, business, or private life shall result in immediate litigation seeking damages no less than $250,000. Translation: try to ruin me on Instagram, and I'll own your future. At 2 p.m., Ramirez emailed it to her lawyer with a subject line that read, "Final offer. Expires in 72 hours. An hour later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello. Are you insane?" Natalya's voice cracked through the line, furious and shaky all at once. "You want me to sign away everything?" "Not everything," I said calmly. "Just the stuff you didn't earn." "You can't sue Gabriel," she shouted. "That's ridiculous." "Oh, sweetheart," I said, letting just enough venom slip in. "The law doesn't care about your opinion. It cares about facts. And the facts are you were still married when you played house with him. So yeah, I can. And I will, unless you take the deal." Silence. Then the sobbing started again. I can't start over with nothing. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the men's watch on my nightstand, the smug look on Gabriel's face when he told me to find somewhere else to stay. And any sympathy I had evaporated. "You've got 3 days," I said. Tick-tock. Click. As I set the phone down, Ramirez texted me 2 words. "She'll fold." And I believed him. Because I didn't just hold the cards. I owned the deck. But what I didn't know was that while Natalya was drowning, Gabriel was about to do something spectacularly stupid. And when he did, it wouldn't just backfire. It would blow their whole little love story to hell. It started with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me. No lawyers. No games. Be a man." I stared at it, sipping my coffee, amused. The number wasn't saved, but the tone? Oh, I knew it. Gabriel had decided to step out of Natalya's shadow and into the spotlight. I typed back 1 word. "Where?" His reply was immediate. "Iron Bull Gym. Backlot. 6 p.m. Of course. The gym. Where real men settle disputes by comparing protein shakes and arm veins. At 6 o'clock sharp, I pulled into the backlot. Gabriel was already there, leaning against his car in a black tank top, like a stock photo for Try Hard Alpha. His arms were oiled up. His jaw was set. He even had a duffel bag like he was expecting a cage fight. "Glad you showed," he said, stepping forward with that overcooked confidence. "Let's settle this man to man." I raised an eyebrow. "What is this, a bad Netflix movie? You think we're about to square off behind the gym while a crowd forms, and someone yells, 'Finish him'?" He smirked. "You think you're so smart with your lawyers and your paperwork, but you're nothing without them. Natalya told me everything. You're cold. Controlling. She deserves better." "Oh, you mean you?" I said, smiling. "The guy who moved into another man's house and got bounced like a bad check." His jaw tightened. "Say what you want, but she loves me." "Then why?" I asked, taking a slow step toward him. "Did she call me crying last night, begging for money? Doesn't sound like true love to me. Sounds like she needs a wallet." His nostrils flared. I could see the storm brewing. And then he did it, the dumbest thing possible. He swung. It wasn't a good punch. It was a haymaker born out of pure ego, the kind you see in bar fights right before someone eats pavement. I sidestepped, and his fist sailed past like a drunk seagull. Before he could reset, I held up my phone. The screen glowed with a recording app. "Thanks for that," I said calmly. "Assault, in front of security cameras. Congratulations, Gabriel. You just gave me Exhibit A." His face drained of color faster than a cheap shirt in bleach. "You wouldn't." "Oh, I would. And if you even look at me sideways again, I'll file charges so fast you'll be Googling bail bonds before leg day." I stepped closer, low enough so only he could hear. "Here's a free tip. Go home. Tell Natalya to sign the papers. And while you're at it, start saving, because when this is over, she's going to need a new man to pay for her wine subscription." I turned and walked away, leaving him frozen in the glow of a flickering parking lot light, fists clenched, pride shattered. As I drove off, I couldn't stop smiling. Because this wasn't just a win. It was the kind of win that tastes like bourbon and justice. But I had no idea the next 48 hours would flip everything on its head. Because Natalya? She wasn't just desperate anymore. She was dangerous. And her next move? It was going to make headlines. The email hit my inbox at 3:12 a.m., which is never a good sign. Subject line: Urgent, TRO. Natalya had filed for a temporary restraining order. Her claim? That I was harassing her and threatening her safety. Cute. The same woman who called me crying 3 nights ago was now painting me as the villain in her own low-budget drama. I called Ramirez at dawn. He answered with a groggy laugh. She's pulling the restraining order card? Classic. Judges love wasting time on fake damsels in distress. Let's burn this down, I said. By noon, we were back in court. Natalya sat at the petitioner's table in another carefully chosen cream dress, looking like the human embodiment of please believe me. Gabriel wasn't with her, probably still nursing his ego from the gym debacle. Her lawyer went first, spinning a tale about intimidation and fear. Mrs. Mendoza cannot feel safe in her own home due to Mr. Mendoza's behavior, he said with righteous indignation. When it was our turn, Ramirez didn't even stand. He just pressed play on the courtroom speaker system. Gabriel's voice, loud and clear. Meet me. No lawyers. No games. Be a man. Then my voice. Where? Cue the collective eyebrow raise from the gallery. Ramirez stood now, slow and steady, like a man savoring the kill. Your Honor, not only is my client not harassing Mrs. Mendoza, but her partner physically attacked him in a parking lot 2 nights ago. We have video. We have timestamps. And we're prepared to press charges if this nonsense continues. Then he slid the prenup across to the judge like a royal flush. Furthermore, Mrs. Mendoza signed a binding agreement waiving claims to Mr. Mendoza's property and assets in the event of infidelity. We have security footage, financial records, and third-party witness statements confirming said infidelity. The judge took off her glasses, looked at Natalya like she was examining a smudge on her bench, and said 6 words that tasted sweeter than any victory lap. This court is not your playground. Motion denied. TRO denied. Hearing adjourned. Natalya didn't look at me as I walked past her table, but I leaned just close enough to whisper, "You should have signed when you had the chance." She didn't reply. She just sat there, shoulders shaking, not with tears this time, but with rage. By the end of the week, the deal was signed. No alimony. No assets. No house. She left with her clothes, her Instagram account, and Gabriel, who, rumor has it, started a GoFundMe to cover his legal stress. As for me, I went home, my home, poured 2 fingers of bourbon, sat in the leather chair she once called ugly, and breathed for the first time in months. People ask if I regret anything. The answer? Not a damn thing. Because in the end, the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's watching them destroy themselves and walking away with everything they thought they'd take from you. And that's exactly what I did. Game over.